Quandejo stared at his computer screen for the third time that morning. Something was wrong with the galactic maps, but he could not figure out what. As the newest member of the Confederation's cartography department, he was supposed to update star charts and trade routes. But every map he looked at had the same strange empty space. The area was marked as Sector 7 Null in red letters. No stars were shown there. No planets. No trade routes, no colony markers. Just blank space where dozens of star systems should be. It was as if someone had erased that part of the galaxy from every map. Deho pulled up older charts from his database. The empty space was there too, going back hundreds of years. He checked different map makers, different companies, different government agencies. All the same. Sector 7 Null was always blank. Strange, he said to himself. He had studied astronomy at the university. He knew that space was not empty like this. There had to be stars there. There had to be something. He walked across the office to his supervisor's desk. Admiral No Tae-sung was reading reports on his tablet. He was an older man with gray hair and tired eyes. He had worked for the Confederation for 40 years. Admiral, no, Deho said politely. I have a question about the star charts. Tae-sung looked up. What kind of question? It's about Sector 7 Null. Why is it empty on all the maps? Surely there must be stars there. The Admiral's face changed. His eyes became hard. He set down his tablet and looked directly at Deho. That sector is not your concern, he said. Focus on the sectors you have been assigned. But sir, I don't understand. If there are stars there, why don't we map them? Are they too dangerous? Are they claimed by hostile aliens? I said it's not your concern. Tae-sung's voice was sharp. Now. Do your job, Deho. Update the charts for sectors 12 through 18. Leave Sector 7 Null alone. Deho went back to his desk, but he could not concentrate on his work. The Admiral's reaction was too strong, too defensive. There was definitely something being hidden. During his lunch break, Deho went to the building's information center. He searched the public databases for any mention of Sector 7 Null. Most searches returned nothing, but eventually, he found a few old academic papers that mentioned restricted zones and quarantine protocols. One paper was written by Dr. Kim Yeon-soo from the University of New Centauri. It was titled, Historical Analysis of Galactic Expansion Patterns. In the paper, Dr. Kim noted that galactic expansion had stopped in certain directions around 500 years ago. She wrote, the halt in expansion appears to be related to the establishment of certain protective measures, though the exact nature of these measures remains classified. Another paper mentioned something called the Great Silence Policy. The author wrote that this policy was created after a significant contact event that changed how the Confederation dealt with unknown species. Deho printed these papers and read them carefully. The timeline was always the same. 500 years ago, something happened. After that, part of the galaxy became off-limits. That evening, Deho stayed late at the office. Most of his co-workers had gone home. He used his computer to search deeper into the Confederation's databases. His security clearance was low, but he could access some older files. He found shipping manifests that showed trade routes ending abruptly at the edge of Sector 7 Null. He found military patrol schedules that specifically avoided that area. He found communication logs that mentioned maintaining the perimeter and barrier integrity checks. The most interesting thing he found was a supply list for something called warning beacon maintenance. The list included items like long-range transmitters, power cells rated for a 100-year operation, and multilingual message modules. Someone was maintaining warning beacons around Sector 7 Null. As Deho was reading through these files, his computer chimed. He had received a priority message, but when he opened it, there was no sender name. The message was short. Stop digging, or you will find more than you want to know. Deho felt a chill run down his spine. Someone was watching his computer activity, but instead of scaring him away, the message made him more curious. Why was everyone so afraid of this empty sector? The next day, Deho tried a different approach. Instead of using his work computer, He went to a public library and used their system. He searched for historical records about first contact with alien species. Most of these records were public information used in schools and universities. He read about humanity's first contact with the Zalari Empire, the Vegan Federation, the Crystalline Collective. Each story was similar. Human explorers met alien diplomats. They shared technology and culture. They signed trade agreements and peace treaties. But as Deho read more carefully, he noticed something odd. All of these first contact events happened more than 500 years ago. After that, the records became vague. There were mentions of complex diplomatic situations and ongoing negotiations, but no details. It was as if the galaxy had suddenly become much smaller 500 years ago. As if humanity had decided to stop exploring in certain directions. Deho left the library with more questions than answers. He walked through the city center, thinking about what he had learned. The afternoon was warm, and the streets were busy, with people going about their daily lives. None of them seemed worried about empty sectors or mysterious quarantine zones. But as he walked, Deho noticed something that made him stop. Across the street was a military recruiting office. In the window was a poster showing a star map of the galaxy. It was a simplified map, the kind used for public information. The interesting thing was what was not on the map. Sector 7 Null was not shown as empty space. It was not shown at all. The map was drawn as if that part of the galaxy simply did not exist. Deho realized that there were two different versions of the truth. The detailed maps used by government agencies showed Sector 7 Null as empty. The public map simply pretended it was not there at all. That evening, Deho made a decision that would change his life. He was going to find out what was really in Sector 7 Null. He could not let this mystery go unsolved. He started by making a list of people who might help him. He needed someone with higher security clearance to access classified files. He needed someone with scientific knowledge to understand what he might find. And he needed someone with military connections who could help him get close to the restricted area. Deho thought about his co-workers and friends. Most of them would think he was crazy for pursuing this. But there were a few people who might be interested in the truth. Dr. Lee So-min worked in the xenoarchaeology department. She studied the history and culture of alien species. She was smart and curious, and she had often complained about gaps in the historical record. Commander Yoon Ji-hai worked in military intelligence. Deho had met her at a conference last year. She had seemed frustrated with the amount of information that was classified without good reason. Both women were known for asking difficult questions. Both had the skills and access that Deho needed. The question was whether they would be willing to risk their careers to uncover the truth. As Deho prepared for bed that night, he looked out his apartment window at the stars. Somewhere out there, in the direction of Sector 7 Null, something was being hidden from the entire galaxy. Something so important that it had been kept secret for 500 years. Tomorrow he would start building a team. Tomorrow he would begin the search for the truth about the forbidden sector. He did not know what he would find, but he was certain that the galaxy would never be the same once the secret was revealed. The empty space on the maps was not empty at all. It was full of mystery, danger, and perhaps the most important discovery in galactic history. They could return to their old lives and pretend they had nev. The three visitors spent 5 days on Earth, though according to their ship's chronometer, only 8 hours had passed in the outside galaxy. During that time, they were shown wonders that challenged everything they thought they knew about the universe. They visited cities that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. They met humans who had lived for centuries by stepping outside the normal flow of time. They saw children playing games that involved reshaping small portions of reality as easily as building with blocks. But they also learned about the burden that came with such power. They met humans who had isolated themselves because their abilities made normal relationships impossible. They saw the careful restrictions that human society imposed on itself to prevent accidental damage to the universe. Most importantly, they learned about the coming threat in detail that made their blood run cold. Dr. Lim Sung-min, director of Earth's Temporal Division, showed them recordings from the future. images of what would happen if the Void Feeder reached inhabited space. These images come from timelines we've already prevented, he explained, but they show what we're fighting against. The recordings showed entire star systems being consumed, not just destroyed, but completely removed from existence. Billions of people dying not just physically, but having their very existence erased from the universe. The entity doesn't just kill, Dr. Lim explained. It makes it so that its victims never existed at all. No memories, no records, no trace that they were ever alive. How do we fight something like that? Daeho asked. Very carefully, and with the combined strength of the entire galaxy, replied Captain Park Dong-wook, commander of Earth's Boundary Guard. Human technology can hurt this entity, but we can't defeat it alone. We need conventional fleets to distract it while we target its dimensional anchor points. Conventional fleets? Jihai asked. You mean ships from our military forces? Exactly. The entity expects us to fight it with reality manipulation. It's adapted to counter our abilities, but it's not prepared for massive coordinated attacks using traditional weapons. Your ships can't destroy it, but they can keep it busy while we do the real work. Dr. Bae Sun-hee joined them for what she called their final briefing before they had to make their decision. Let me be completely honest about what we're asking you to do, she said. If you agree to help us, you'll be starting a process that will fundamentally change galactic civilization forever. She showed them projections of what human revelation would mean for different species. Some would adapt quickly and benefit from new technologies and perspectives. Others would struggle with the knowledge that their understanding of reality was so limited. The Zalari will probably handle it well, she explained. They're naturally philosophical and adaptable. The Vegans might have more difficulty. They're very attached to their scientific paradigms. The crystalline collective could go either way. What about the Confederation as a whole? Somin asked. Political chaos in the short term, Dr. Bae admitted. Some worlds will want to join us immediately. Others will demand that we fix all their problems. Still others will try to develop weapons to use against us. But in the long term, Dr. An Sung-ho added, the galaxy will be stronger and more capable. Species that have been limited by their understanding of physics will suddenly have access to new possibilities. Admiral Kang showed them tactical assessments of how the revelation would affect galactic military forces. Most existing weapons and defenses will become obsolete overnight. We'll need to help other species develop new technologies that can work alongside ours. The economic disruption will be severe, added Dr. Oh Yoon-ji. Technologies that are currently valuable will become worthless. Entire industries will disappear while new ones are created. Dr. Lim brought up the most disturbing projection of all. In some timeline branches, the revelation of human capabilities leads to widespread panic and social collapse. Wars break out as species try to claim human technology for themselves. Billions die in the chaos. But in other timelines, Dr. Bae said firmly, the galaxy becomes stronger and more united than ever before. Species learn to work together in ways they never imagined possible. The universe becomes a place of wonder rather than fear. Which timeline becomes real depends largely on how the revelation is handled, Dr. An explained. If it's done carefully, with trusted voices helping to explain what's happening, the chances of a positive outcome are much higher. So Min asked the question that had been bothering her most. What happens to the three of us specifically? If we become your ambassadors, what does that mean for our lives? Dr. Bae's expression became gentle. You would become part of our extended community. Not human, but not entirely separate from us either. You would learn to see reality as we do, though the process would be gradual to avoid psychological damage. You would live much longer than normal for your species, Dr. Lim added. Time manipulation can extend lifespans almost indefinitely. You would see the galaxy change in ways that most people could never imagine. But you would also be isolated from your original communities, Captain Park warned. People who know what you know and have seen what you've seen cannot easily return to normal life. Admiral Kang showed them examples of the secret liaisons who had worked with humanity over the centuries. Most had become something between their original species and human. not physically changed, but transformed in their understanding and capabilities. It's not a life for everyone, Dr. Bay said honestly. The knowledge we carry is both a gift and a burden. You see the universe's true beauty, but you also see its fragility and the constant threats it faces. Jihai stood up and walked to the observation window. Earth hung below them, impossible and beautiful, a testament to what consciousness could achieve when freed from conventional limitations. If we say no, she asked, what happens then? We fight the Void Feeder alone, Dr. Bay replied. We'll probably win, but the cost will be much higher, and the galaxy will continue to live in ignorance of the true nature of reality. And if we say yes? We begin the process of preparing galactic civilization for its next stage of evolution. It will be difficult and dangerous, but it will also be magnificent. Daeho looked around at the impossible architecture of the station. How long do we have to decide? In Earth time, as long as you need. In galactic time, we need an answer before you leave. Once you return to Confederation space, the opportunity will be lost. The three visitors spent their final night on Earth in deep discussion. They walked through gardens that existed in 5 dimensions simultaneously. They sat by oceans that reflected the light of stars from parallel universes. They talked through the implications of everything they had learned. The galaxy is going to change whether we help or not, Somin said finally. The question is whether it changes for the better or for the worse, and whether we're part of that change or just observers watching it happen, Jihai added. Daeho looked up at the impossible sky above Earth. I started this investigation because I was curious about an empty space on a map. Now I find out that the empty space is full of people working to protect reality itself. The next morning, they met with Dr. Bay one final time. Their ship was prepared for departure, loaded with communication equipment that would allow them to stay in contact with Earth. What is your decision? She asked gently. The three looked at each other and nodded. They had talked it through and reached a unanimous conclusion. We'll do it, Jihai said. We'll help you prepare the galaxy for what's coming. Dr. Bay smiled, but it was a sad smile. I'm happy you've chosen to help, but I'm sorry for what this choice will cost you. Your old lives are ending today. What comes next will be more difficult than anything you've experienced. But also more important. Somin said firmly. Yes. Also more important. Dr. Bay handed them each a small device that looked like crystallized light. These are quantum communicators. They'll allow you to stay in contact with us regardless of distance or dimensional barriers. When you're ready to begin the revelation process, activate them. As they prepared to leave Earth, Dr. Bay gave them their final instructions. Return to Confederation space and begin carefully sharing what you've learned. Start with people you trust completely. Build a network of allies who can help when the full truth is revealed. How will we know when it's time for the full revelation? Daeho asked. You'll know, Captain Park said, joining them at the docking bay. When long-range sensors start detecting the Void Feeder, when panic begins to spread through the galaxy, when conventional defenses prove inadequate, that's when you'll activate the communicators and we'll begin our intervention. Their journey back to Confederation space was much faster than the trip to Earth had been. Human technology compressed the distance, allowing them to travel hundreds of light years in a matter of hours. As their ship approached the research station where they had first made contact with humanity, Jihai received a priority message from Confederation Command. Long-range sensors had detected massive energy disturbances at the galactic edge. All military units were being placed on high alert. It's beginning, she said quietly. Daeho looked at the quantum communicator in his hand. In a few months, he would activate it and help reveal the Great Usiber. 3 weeks later, Daeho sat in a small cafe with Dr. Lee So-min and Commander Yoon Ji-hee. He had convinced both women to meet with him, though neither knew exactly why they were there. So-min was a petite woman with short black hair and intelligent eyes. She wore simple clothes and carried a worn leather bag full of research papers. Jihai was taller and more serious-looking. Her military training showed in the way she sat straight and watched everyone in the cafe. Thank you both for coming, Daeho said quietly. I need to show you something that might get us all in trouble. He pulled out a tablet and showed them the maps of Sector 7 Null. He explained his research and the strange reactions he had gotten from his supervisor. Both women listened carefully without speaking. When he finished, So-min was the first to respond. I've noticed the same gaps in the historical record, she said. There are entire periods where we have no information about certain alien cultures. It's as if someone went through the archives and removed specific files. Ji-hai nodded slowly. Military intelligence has similar problems. We have patrol routes that make no sense, defense budgets for projects that don't exist, and communications equipment pointed at empty space. I've always wondered what we're really watching for. So you'll help me investigate? Daeho asked. I'll help, So-min said. But we need to be very careful. If this information is classified at the highest levels, we could face serious consequences for looking into it. Agreed, Ji-hai said. I can get us access to some classified databases, but we need to have a plan. We can't just go searching randomly through government files. Over the next hour, they developed a strategy. Ji-hai would use her military clearance to access historical communications logs. So-min would research archaeological evidence from the time period when the quarantine was established. Daeho would continue mapping the boundaries of the restricted zone. They agreed to meet again in 1 week with whatever information they could find. Ji-hai was the first to make a breakthrough. Using her intelligence clearance, she accessed communication, logs from 500 years ago. What she found shocked her. The logs contained detailed reports about something called First Contact Event Omega. The reports were written by Admiral Park Hyun-woo, who was in charge of the Confederation's First Contact Division at the time. According to the reports, long-range sensors had detected unusual signals from Sector 7 Null. The signals were clearly artificial, but they used technology that no known species possessed. Admiral Park had sent a diplomatic mission to investigate. The mission was led by Captain Shin Jae-won aboard the starship Harmony. The ship carried a full diplomatic team, including translators, cultural experts, and military advisors. Their job was to make peaceful contact with whatever species lived in that sector. The first few reports from Captain Shin were routine. His ship had entered the sector and detected several inhabited planets. The technology level of the inhabitants appeared to be very advanced, possibly more advanced than the Confederation itself. But then the reports became strange. Captain Shin wrote, "The beings in this sector call themselves humans. They claim to be from a planet called Earth. Their appearance is similar to many humanoid species we have encountered, but their technology is unlike anything in our databases." The next report was even more confusing. The humans have demonstrated capabilities that our science cannot explain. They appear to manipulate space and time directly, without the use of any visible technology. Our physics experts are unable to understand how their ships achieve faster than light travel. Admiral Park's response was urgent. Continue diplomatic contact but maintain safe distance. Do not allow human technology to be copied or studied until we understand its implications. But it was the final report that made Ji-hai's hands shake. As she read it, Captain Shin had written, "Admiral, I must report a disturbing development. The humans have asked us to demonstrate our most powerful weapons. When we declined, they offered to show us theirs. What we witnessed cannot be adequately described in words. They did not simply destroy a target asteroid. They made it cease to exist. Not just destroyed. It never existed at all. Our sensors show no debris, no energy discharge, no trace that the asteroid was ever there. I recommend immediate withdrawal and the establishment of a quarantine zone." Meanwhile, So-min was making her own discoveries in the archaeological records. She had found evidence of advanced technology in several excavation sites near the border of Sector 7 Null. But the strange thing was that this technology appeared to be getting more advanced as it got older. The most recent artifacts, from about 400 years ago, were impressive but understandable. Energy weapons, advanced computers, and efficient spacecraft engines. The kind of technology the Confederation might develop in a few more centuries. But the older artifacts were impossible. Devices that seemed to manipulate probability itself. Computers that calculated the outcomes of events that had not happened yet. weapons that could target specific individuals across vast distances of space and time. So-min found a report written by Dr. An Seung-ho, who had studied these artifacts. The technology becomes more alien as we go back in time. It's as if these people were evolving backwards, becoming less human and more something else entirely. I recommend that all artifacts be stored in the maximum security vault and that excavation in this area be suspended indefinitely. When the three researchers met again, they compared their findings. The picture that emerged was terrifying. 500 years ago, the Confederation had encountered a species called humans. These humans possessed technology that was so advanced it seemed like magic. They could manipulate space, time, and probability itself. The initial diplomatic contact had gone well. The humans seemed peaceful and interested in trade and cultural exchange. But as the negotiations continued, it became clear that there was something fundamentally different about how humans thought and operated. Daeho had found the boundaries of Sector 7 null, and they made no sense from a strategic standpoint. While the Chur quarantine zone was not centered on any particular star system or resource. Instead, it seemed designed to keep something in, rather than to keep others out. "Look at this," he said, showing them a map. "The boundary doesn't follow natural borders like star clusters or nebulae. It's a perfect sphere centered on a single planet. Everything within 50 light-years of that planet is off-limits." "That planet must be Earth," So-min said. "The human homeworld." Ji-hai pulled up the final communication from Admiral Park's files. It was marked with the highest classification level and was addressed to the Confederation Council itself. "Council members, after extensive evaluation of the first contact situation in Sector 7 null, I must recommend immediate implementation of Protocol 0. The species known as humans represents a fundamental threat to galactic stability, not through aggression, but through their very existence. Their technology operates on principles that our scientists cannot understand. More importantly, their way of thinking is so alien that prolonged contact with them appears to cause psychological instability in other species. Several members of our diplomatic team have requested permanent transfer to human space, claiming that our way of life now seems limited and primitive. The humans themselves have suggested the establishment of a quarantine zone. They claim, this is for our protection, not theirs. I believe they are correct. Recommendation: establish permanent isolation protocols and classify all information about this contact under the Omega classification level. The three researchers sat in silence after reading this report. They had found the answer to their question, but it was not what any of them had expected. The humans were not prisoners in Sector 7 null. They were volunteers. They had agreed to isolate themselves from the rest of the galaxy to protect other species from their influence. But protect us from what? So-min asked quietly. Ji-hai looked at the classified reports again. According to these files, the humans didn't just have advanced technology. They had a completely different way of understanding reality. Contact with them changed how people thought about the universe itself. Daeho stared at the map of the quarantine zone. The question is, are they still there? And what have they been doing for the last 500 years? As they prepared to leave the cafe, Ji-hee received a message on her military communicator. Her face went pale as she read it. "What is it?" So-min asked. "Long-range sensors have detected unusual activity at the edge of Sector 7 null," Ji-hai said. "Something is moving along the quarantine boundary. The High Command wants all intelligence officers to report for briefing tomorrow morning." The secret they had been investigating was about to become very real. After 500 years of silence, something was happening in the forbidden sector. 2 days after Ji-hai's emergency briefing, the three researchers made a decision that could cost them their careers and possibly their lives. They were going to visit the edge of Sector 7 null themselves. The military briefing had revealed disturbing information. Sensor stations along the quarantine boundary were detecting massive energy signatures. Something was building or moving near the forbidden zone. The High Command was preparing for the possibility that the quarantine had failed. "They're talking about mobilizing the entire fleet," Ji-hai told her companions as they met in Daeho's apartment. "Admiral No Tae-sung is being recalled to active duty. They're treating this like a potential invasion. But what if they're wrong? So-min asked. What if the humans are trying to communicate rather than attack? Daeho had been studying stellar maps all night. I found a way to get close to the boundary without triggering the military sensors, he said. There's an old research station in the Kepler 442 system. It was abandoned 20 years ago, but it still has a working long-range sensor array. That station is only 10 light-years from the quarantine boundary, Jihai said. It would be perfect for observing what's happening. The question is, can we get there without authorization? So-min asked. Jihai smiled for the first time in days. I can requisition a stealth reconnaissance ship for a routine patrol mission. As long as we don't do anything obviously illegal, we should be fine. 3 days later, they were aboard the military ship Silent Wind, approaching the abandoned research station. Jihai was officially the mission commander, with So-min and Daeho listed as scientific consultants. The research station was exactly as Daeho had described. A small outpost built around a powerful sensor array, designed to study distant star formations. It had been abandoned when budget cuts reduced the Confederation's research programs. They docked with the station and activated its systems. The main sensor array came online without problems, giving them a clear view of the space around Sector 7 null. What they saw took their breath away. The quarantine boundary was not just an empty line in space. It was filled with massive structures that had never appeared on any official scan. Hundreds of enormous platforms floated in the void, each one the size of a small moon. How did the military miss these? Daeho asked in amazement. They didn't, Jihai said quietly, studying her readings. These platforms are using some kind of stealth technology. They're only visible when you know exactly where to look and what frequency to scan. So-min was analyzing the energy signatures. These structures are incredibly old, she said. The materials showed decay patterns that suggest they've been here for at least 400 years. So they were built shortly after the quarantine was established, Daeho observed. As they studied the platforms more closely, they realized something shocking. The structures were not built by any known galactic species. The design was completely alien, using principles of engineering that seemed to ignore known physics. Look at this, So-min said, pointing to her screen. These platforms are not just floating in space. They're anchored to space-time itself. They're not affected by gravity or stellar drift. But the most disturbing discovery came when they analyzed the platform's purpose. They were not weapons, as the military feared. They were sensors and communication arrays all pointed outward from Sector 7 null. They're not designed to keep people out, Jihai realized. They're designed to watch everyone who approaches. Daeho activated the station's communication equipment and tried to intercept any signals from the platforms. At first, he heard only static. But then, faint transmissions began to come through. The messages were being broadcast in dozens of different languages: Zalari, Vegan, Crystalline, and many others. But the content was the same in every language. Warning: you are approaching a restricted zone. Turn back immediately. This is not a threat, but a request for your own safety. We are not your enemy, but we will defend our sovereignty if necessary. This message repeats in 47 galactic languages. Please acknowledge if you require assistance. They're trying to protect people, So-min said with wonder. These platforms aren't weapons, they're warning systems. But Jihai had made an even more disturbing discovery. Look at these data logs, she said. The platforms have been recording detailed information about every ship that has approached the boundary over the past 4 centuries. The files contained complete technical specifications for thousands of different spacecraft. Detailed biological scans of every species that had come close to the quarantine zone. Cultural analysis reports based on intercepted communications. They know everything about us, Daeho said quietly. Our technology, our weaknesses, our social structures. They've been studying the entire galaxy. As if responding to his words, the station's communication system suddenly activated on its own. A new message came through, but this one was not a recorded warning. This was a real-time transmission directed specifically at their ship. Greetings, curious visitors. The message said in perfect Confederation standard. We have been monitoring your research into the quarantine protocols. We appreciate your careful and respectful approach to learning the truth. The three researchers looked at each other in shock. Someone was talking directly to them from inside Sector 7 Null. We know you have questions, the voice continued. We know you seek answers about the events of 500 years ago. We have been waiting for someone like you, someone brave enough to look for the truth but wise enough to approach carefully. Jihai activated their ship's communication system. This is Commander Yoon Jihai of the Confederation Defense Force. Who are we speaking with? I am Dr. Bae Sun-hee, Director of Galactic Relations for the human colony of Earth. I have been expecting your visit for approximately 17 years, 4 months, and 12 days. Daeho felt a chill at the precision of that statement. How could you know we were coming? We have developed certain capabilities in the area of probability mathematics, Dr. Bae replied. Predicting likely future events is not difficult when you understand the underlying patterns of cause and effect. So Min leaned forward. Dr. Bae, we've been researching the quarantine protocols. We know about the first contact events 500 years ago. What we don't understand is why you chose isolation. There was a long pause before Dr. Bae responded. The short answer is that we scared you. Not intentionally, but inevitably. Our way of thinking, our approach to problems, our relationship with reality itself, these things are fundamentally different from how other species operate. Different how? Jihai asked. Let me give you an example, Dr. Bae said. 500 years ago, your species faced a threat called the darkness of the void. You may not remember it because we made sure it never happened. The three researchers exchanged confused looks. None of them had heard of any darkness of the void. When other species encounter an existential threat, they fight it, flee from it, or try to negotiate with it, Dr. Bae continued. When we encounter such a threat, we find the root cause and eliminate it from the timeline entirely. The darkness of the void was going to consume half the galaxy. We prevented its creation. You changed history? So-min asked in amazement. We corrected a mistake in the structure of space-time itself. The threat never existed, so no one remembers it. But the effort required to accomplish this demonstrated to your leaders that we operate on a level that most species cannot comprehend. Daeho was trying to process this information. So you chose isolation to protect us from what exactly? From the knowledge that reality is far more flexible than you believe. From the understanding that consciousness can directly affect the physical universe. From the realization that most of what you consider natural laws are simply habits that the universe has gotten into. Dr. Bae's voice became more serious. Contact with us changes people. They begin to see the universe as we do. For most species, this knowledge leads to madness or despair. Your minds are not built to handle the responsibility that comes with understanding reality's true nature. Jihai asked the question that had been bothering her since they started this investigation. If you're so powerful, why do you stay hidden? You could rule the galaxy if you wanted to. Rule? Dr. Bae sounded genuinely surprised. Commander Jihai, we are not conquerors. We are gardeners. The galaxy is a beautiful garden full of diverse life forms, each contributing something unique to the whole. Why would we want to dominate something so precious? Then what do you want? So-min asked. We want the same thing we have wanted for 500 years. To protect the garden while staying far enough away that our presence does not poison the soil. But now, circumstances are forcing us to consider a change in policy. The communication system crackled and Dr. Bae's voice took on a note of urgency. We have a proposition for you. If you are willing to take a great risk for an even greater reward, we would like to invite you to visit Earth. There are things you need to see and understand before events spiral beyond anyone's control. What kind of events? Daeho asked. The kind that will require us to break our isolation, whether we want to or not. The garden has new threats growing in it, and the gardeners may have no choice but to step out of the shadows. The three researchers looked at each other. They had come looking for answers about an empty space on a map. Now they were being in, after 2 days of discussion, The three researchers made their choice. They would accept the human invitation to visit Earth despite the enormous risks involved. Jihai sent a coded message to Dr. Bei Sunhee using the communication frequency that had been provided. The response came within hours. Prepare for transition in 6 hours. Follow the navigation beacon when it appears. Do not deviate from the prescribed course under any circumstances. Welcome to the first diplomatic visit to Earth in 500 years. When the time came, their ship's sensors detected a new signal, a navigation beacon that had not been there before. The signal was unlike anything in their databases. It seemed to exist in multiple dimensions at once, guiding them not just through space but through what their instruments described as probability channels. As they followed the beacon toward Sector 7 Null, space itself began to change around them. Stars appeared to shift position. The background radiation of the universe took on strange patterns. Their ship's chronometer started showing impossible readings. According to our time sensors, we've been traveling for 3 hours, Jihai reported. But according to our navigation computer, we've covered 200 light-years. The space around us is compressed, Somin observed, studying her readings. Or maybe we're moving through folded dimensions. I don't understand the physics. Daeho was monitoring their communication systems when a new voice came through. Not Dr. Bei this time, but someone with a different tone and accent. Unknown vessel, this is Captain Nam Hoseok of the Earth Defense Coordinate. You are now entering human space. Please reduce your speed to 1/4 impulse and prepare for escort. Through their view screen, they saw something that made them gasp. A ship was approaching them, but it was unlike any vessel they had ever seen. It appeared to be made of crystallized starlight, its surface shifting between solid matter and pure energy. That's impossible, Jihai whispered. How can a ship be made of light? Welcome to human technology, Captain Nam's voice said with what sounded like amusement. Don't worry about understanding it. Most of us don't fully understand it either. We just use it. The escort ship guided them through what appeared to be empty space, but their sensors detected massive structures hidden in the void. Space stations, the size of small planets, all invisible until they were close enough to touch. How many people live in this sector? Somin asked. Currently, about 12 billion humans are distributed across 47 worlds and 300 space habitats, Captain Nam replied. But those numbers are somewhat misleading, since some of our population exists in parallel dimensions and temporal loops. Parallel dimensions? Daeho repeated. Earth got a bit crowded about 200 years ago, so we started building cities and pocket universes. It's more efficient than terraforming new planets, and it has less environmental impact. As they continued their journey, they passed through a region where the stars seemed to form geometric patterns in the sky. Everything was too organized, too perfect to be natural. We rearranged the local star cluster for better energy efficiency, Captain Nam explained casually. Don't worry, we didn't harm any inhabited systems. We just moved them to better positions. Finally, they saw their destination, Earth. But it was not the small blue planet they expected from historical records. This Earth was surrounded by rings of artificial structures that extended far into space. The planet itself seemed to shimmer and pulse with an inner light. Is that really just one planet? Jihai asked in amazement. Yes and no, Captain Nam replied. Earth exists in 7 dimensions simultaneously. You're seeing the overlay of all 7 versions. Most humans live in the primary dimension, but some prefer the alternatives. As they entered Earth's orbital space, Dr. Bei Sunhee's voice returned to their communications. Welcome to Earth, honored visitors. Please dock at Station Alpha 7. I will meet you there personally. Station Alpha 7 turned out to be a massive facility that seemed to exist both inside and outside normal space. As they docked, their ship was surrounded by a gentle energy field that made them feel strangely comfortable and alert at the same time. Dr. Bei Sunhee was waiting for them in the docking bay. She appeared to be a woman in her middle years with kind eyes and graying hair, but there was something in her gaze that suggested vast age and experience. Welcome, she said, bowing politely. I hope your journey was not too disorienting. Traveling through compressed space-time takes some getting used to. Dr. Bei, Somin said. How long have you been expecting us? In linear time, about 17 years. But I've been preparing for this meeting much longer than that. When you learn to see probability patterns, the future becomes much more predictable. She led them through the station, which was filled with impossible architecture. Corridors that led upward somehow brought them to rooms that were clearly below where they started. Windows showed views of different star fields from the same location. The station exists in folded space, Dr. Bay explained. It's much larger inside than outside. We find this design more comfortable than traditional geometric structures. They passed other humans in the corridors, and the visitors were struck by their diversity. Some appeared young, others seemed ancient. Some looked entirely normal, while others had subtle modifications, eyes that glowed softly, or skin that seemed to shift color with their emotions. Are all humans like this now? Deho asked quietly. We've learned to adapt ourselves to different environments and purposes, Dr. Bay replied. Some of our people live in the deep ocean, others in the vacuum of space, still others in the centers of stars. We modify our bodies to suit our chosen lifestyles. She brought them to a large observation lounge with a spectacular view of Earth. From this angle, they could see the planet's surface, which was covered with cities that defied description, towers that reached into space, gardens that floated in midair, oceans that glowed with bioluminescent life. This is beautiful, So-min said softly. Thank you. We've worked hard to make Earth a place of wonder rather than just survival. When you can manipulate matter and energy directly, there's no reason for ugliness or scarcity. Dr. Bai, Jihai said, we need to understand something. If humans can do all this, why do you stay isolated? You could help the entire galaxy. Dr. Bai's expression became serious. Let me show you something that happened the last time we tried to help. She activated a wall screen that showed what appeared to be historical footage. A human ship was approaching, a Zilari colony that was being threatened by an asteroid impact. This was 300 years ago, Dr. Bay explained. A mining asteroid had been knocked off course and was going to destroy a city of 2 million Zilari. Our ship arrived to help. On the screen, they watched the human ship position itself near the asteroid. There was a brief flash of light, and then the asteroid was gone. Not destroyed, simply gone, as if it had never existed. The Zilari city was saved, Dr. Bay continued, but within a year the entire Zilari population of that world had requested evacuation. They said they could no longer live on a planet where the laws of physics could be casually violated. The screen showed news reports from that time. Zilari, philosophers speaking about the collapse of their understanding of reality. Scientists abandoning their research because they realized how limited their knowledge was. Artists creating works that expressed existential despair. Contact with us is psychologically damaging to most species, Dr. Bay said quietly. You see us solve problems by changing the fundamental nature of reality, and it makes your own existence feel meaningless. We learn to stay away for your own mental health. But surely some contact is better than none, So-min argued. Dr. Bay smiled sadly. There have been exceptions. Over the centuries, we have had limited contact with a few individuals who were able to handle the knowledge of what we can do. They serve as secret liaisons, helping us understand galactic events while maintaining the necessary isolation. Secret liaison? Deho asked. Your Admiral No Tae-sung, for example. He's been working with us for 15 years. Several members of the Confederation Council know the truth about human capabilities. They help us help the galaxy without causing widespread panic. Jihai felt a moment of betrayal. So the quarantine is fake? No, the quarantine is very real and very necessary. But it's not a prison. It's a boundary that we maintain for everyone's protection. Think of it as a buffer zone between two very different ways of existing. Dr. Bay gestured toward the view of Earth. We could end galactic wars with a thought. We could cure diseases by rewriting the genetic code of entire species. We could provide unlimited energy by tapping directly into the quantum foam of space-time itself. But if we did these things openly, we would destroy the galaxy's sense of purpose and achievement. So what do you do instead? So-min asked. We work behind the scenes. When the Vegan Federation faced extinction from a plague, we subtly influenced their research so they discovered the cure themselves. When the Crystal Wars threatened to destroy 3 star systems, we created coincidences that brought the opposing sides to the negotiating table. She turned to face them directly. We are not your rulers or your guardians. We are your invisible partners, helping you succeed while allowing. Dr. Bei Sun-hee led the 3 visitors deeper into the station, toward what she called the operations center. As they walked, the architecture around them became even more impossible. They passed through rooms where gravity pointed in different directions, corridors that existed in multiple time periods simultaneously, and windows that showed views of distant galaxies in real time. What you are about to see, Dr. Bei said, is the reason why we have maintained our isolation for 500 years. It is also the reason why that isolation may soon end. They entered a vast chamber filled with displays and control panels that seemed to be made of pure light. Dozens of humans worked at stations that monitored different parts of the galaxy. The scale of the operation was breathtaking. This is our Galaxy Watch Center, Dr. Bei explained. From here we monitor threats to galactic civilization that most species never even detect. A tall man with silver hair approached them. He wore what appeared to be a military uniform, but made of material that shifted and flowed like liquid metal. This is Admiral Kang Yu-jin, Dr. Bei said. He coordinates our deep space monitoring operations. Admiral Kang bowed politely. Welcome to Earth. I wish we could meet under better circumstances, but we have a situation that requires immediate attention. He led them to a massive holographic display that showed the entire galaxy. But this was unlike any galactic map the visitors had ever seen. It showed layers of reality that normal sensors could not detect. What you see here, Admiral Kang explained, are the dimensional barriers that protect our galaxy from external threats. These barriers occur naturally in most regions, but they require active maintenance in areas where reality is thin. The display showed several regions where the barriers appeared to be weakening or damaged. Most of these areas were at the very edge of the galaxy, far from any inhabited systems. For the past 5 centuries, we have been repairing and strengthening these barriers, Admiral Kang continued. Most galactic threats come from within: wars, plagues, natural disasters. But the truly dangerous threats come from outside dimensional space. Dr. Oh Yoon-ji, the station's chief scientist, joined the conversation. She was a young-looking woman with eyes that seemed to hold ancient knowledge. The universe is much larger and more dangerous than most species realize, she said. Our galaxy exists in a relatively safe pocket of space-time, protected by natural barriers that keep out entities from other dimensional planes. What kind of entities? Soman asked. Dr. O activated another display that showed something that hurt to look at directly. It appeared to be a mass of writhing darkness that consumed everything it touched. We call them void feeders, she explained. They exist outside normal spacetime and consume reality itself. They turn matter, energy, and even the possibility of existence into nothingness. Ji-hai studied the display with professional interest. How often do these things attack? On average, every 15 to 20 years, Admiral Kang replied. Usually, they're small incursions that we can handle without the galaxy even noticing. We simply repair the dimensional damage and reinforce the barriers. But sometimes, Dr. Bei added grimly, the attacks are larger. The darkness of the void that I mentioned earlier was one such incursion. It required us to rewrite the timeline to prevent the destruction of half the galaxy. Daeho was trying to process this information, so while the rest of the galaxy goes about its daily life, you're fighting cosmic horrors to keep reality intact? Essentially, yes. It's the price we pay for our abilities. When you can manipulate reality directly, you become aware of how fragile it really is, and you become responsible for protecting it. Dr. O brought up a new display that showed recent sensor readings from the galactic edge. Which brings us to our current problem. 3 weeks ago, we detected a massive breach in the dimensional barriers. Something is coming through that is larger than anything we've faced before. The display showed energy readings that dwarfed anything the visitors had ever seen. The scale was so vast that it was difficult to comprehend. How large? Jihai asked. Large, enough to consume the entire galaxy if it reaches inhabited space, Admiral Kang said bluntly, and our calculations suggest that it will arrive within 6 months. The three visitors looked at each other in shock. They had come to Earth expecting to learn about ancient history, not about an immediate threat to galactic civilization. What can be done to stop it? So-Min asked. That's where the situation becomes complicated, Dr. Bay replied. In the past, we could handle such threats through subtle manipulation of space-time. We could strengthen the barriers, redirect the entities, or alter probability to prevent their arrival. But this entity is too large and too intelligent for such approaches, Dr. O continued. It learns and adapts to our interference. Every time we try to redirect it, it finds a new path. Every time we strengthen the barriers, it finds a weakness we hadn't considered. Admiral Kang brought up tactical displays that showed various failed attempts to stop the approaching threat. We've tried everything in our arsenal: temporal manipulation, probability alteration, reality restructuring. Nothing works on something this large and sophisticated. So what's the solution? Daeho asked, though he was beginning to suspect the answer. The only way to stop this entity is through direct confrontation, Dr. Bay said. We need to fight it with conventional weapons and tactics. But the scale of the battle will be so large that we cannot hide it from the rest of the galaxy, Dr. An Seung-ho, the station's chief philosopher, joined the conversation. He was an elderly man with a thoughtful expression and eyes that seemed to see beyond the present moment. Breaking our isolation will have consequences that extend far beyond this immediate crisis, he said. Once the galaxy knows what we can do, everything will change. Some species will worship us as gods. Others will fear us as demons. Many will demand that we solve all their problems for them. And some, Admiral Kang added, will try to destroy us because they cannot tolerate the knowledge that their understanding of reality is so limited. Dr. Bay led them to a quiet observation area where they could see Earth in all its impossible beauty. This is the choice we face. We can continue to protect the galaxy in secret and allow this entity to destroy everything, or we can reveal ourselves and save the galaxy at the cost of our isolation. There's also a third option, Dr. An said quietly. We could evacuate Earth and the other human worlds to a different dimension, leaving the rest of the galaxy to face this threat alone. That's not really an option, So-Min said firmly. You can't just abandon billions of innocent people. No, Dr. Bay agreed. We can't. Despite the risks and consequences, we have to break our isolation and fight this entity directly, but we need help preparing the galaxy for what's coming. She turned to the three visitors. This is why we brought you here. We need ambassadors who can help the galactic community understand and accept our intervention. People who can explain why we stayed hidden and why we must now reveal ourselves. Jihai realized the magnitude of what they were being asked to do. You want us to prepare our people for the knowledge that reality is completely different from what they believe. More than that, Dr. Bay said. We need you to help us coordinate the galaxy's response to this threat. When we break our isolation, there will be panic, confusion, and probably violence. We need trusted voices who can help maintain stability while we focus on the approaching entity. Dr. O showed them projections of what would happen when humanity revealed itself. Social collapse in some regions, religious upheavals, scientific revolutions, political chaos as governments tried to understand their place in a universe where humans could rewrite the laws of physics. But there will also be opportunities, Dr. An pointed out. Species that have been limited by their understanding of reality will suddenly have access to new possibilities. Technologies that were thought impossible will become achievable. Problems that seemed unsolvable will have solutions. Admiral Kang brought up a timeline showing their preparations for the coming crisis. We have 4 months to prepare the galaxy for our intervention. 2 months after that, the entity arrives. If we haven't established trust and cooperation by then, the battle will be much more difficult. Dr. Bay looked at each of the visitors in turn. We're asking you to take on an enormous responsibility. You'll be helping to reshape galactic civilization while preparing for the greatest threat in known history. And you'll have to do it while most people think you're crazy or lying. What about the secret liaisons you mentioned? Deho asked. Can't they help? They will help, Dr. Bay replied. But they've been operating in secret for so long that they can't suddenly reveal their knowledge without destroying their credibility. We need new voices, people who discovered the truth through their own investigation. Somin stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the incredible civilization that humans had built. If we do this, if we help you reveal humanity to the galaxy, what happens to us afterward? You become part of something larger than any individual species, Dr. Bay said. You become part of the group that protects reality itself. It's not an easy life, but it's a meaningful one. The three visitors looked at each other, understanding that they were facing the most important decision of their lives.